Hello, thank you for joining us. This is the Miro Consulting webinar on changes to Microsoft licensing and audits from new Copilot. So we will begin the webinar in about 1 minute. We're just going to give everyone a chance to log in. Hello again, thank you for joining us. This is the Miro Consulting webinar on Microsoft Copilot. We're going to begin in about 30 seconds or so. We're just going to give everyone a chance to log in. All right, thank you for joining us. We are Miro Consulting, and this is our webinar on changes to Microsoft licensing and audits from the new Copilot. My name is Sean Donahue. I am the VP of Marketing here at Miro Consulting, and I will be your host for today's event. The presentation will be given by Vince Allison, who is our Senior Analyst for Microsoft Licensing. Vince, next slide. Real quick about us, so you know who's giving you this advice. Before we begin, Miro Consulting is a leading global provider of software asset management and subscription management services for Oracle, Microsoft, IBM, Amazon Web Services, and Salesforce. We specialize in license management, audit advisory, negotiation tactics, support management, and cloud services. Our mission is to help our clients maximize their ROI on software license and subscription investments, to stay in compliance, to negotiate successful contracts, and audit settlements. And we also save our clients a lot of money on licensing, if you didn't get that from this message. But the best part about working with Miro is we have a no risk performance guarantee. And that's simply that the amount of money we're going to save you will be more than our fees. That's how working with us is a no risk for you. So if you were looking for someone to help you advise on your software licensing, or you have an audit situation, we have a performance guarantee for that. And I will quickly just point out, while we're still here on this slide, that there's a lot. Microsoft is ubiquitous. You're going to have a lot of Microsoft advisors out there. One thing I want to make sure you understand about us in particular is we are not a Microsoft reseller. We are not a Microsoft partner. We have no obligations to them in any way. So this is advice that is not conflicted in any way, because we have a relationship with Microsoft that would lead us down a certain path. So next slide, Vince. And with this, I will let Vince take it here. And Vince, tell us about Microsoft Copilot.
Thank you, Sean. So Microsoft Copilot, what is it? If you're a Microsoft customer, you've probably been hearing a lot about it. Microsoft has really been pushing this new feature. Basically what Copilot is, it's using AI to help work and help use products like Word, Microsoft Teams, or even the desktop operating system. Think of Copilot not as like a single product of how like Word works just for word processing, but kind of like an add-on to these products. And with that, Microsoft has been working with different AI technologies and different groups to kind of expand not only their product base, but also work with these groups and how to work with the other products and to help increase their revenue. Of course, the more things Microsoft can sell, the better for Microsoft. The question is, how does this affect you or benefit you as a customer? Is it worth the change to go to it? So what we look at then is some benefits of Copilot. What that can do is, think of it as there is an old joke of the old Microsoft Clippy, the word assistant that was on there. When you use that, you would type in a little thing and it would try to give you some suggestions. Now, that's come a long way since then. There's a lot more different features that it comes up with, and it gives you a lot more of an educated or a useful type scenario. The good thing is you can use different languages. You can have it set up to help you search in different things. You're searching different maybe applications or things out there. The other thing is it uses like Azure to host the Copilot tools. Benefit to that is that it's not running locally, it's running on a Microsoft server to give you the benefit of not having to manage it. You have it on the cloud, so it's readily available on your device. The reason I like to point out that Azure's there is there's really the potential for it to become a licensing concern, because what can happen is you use Microsoft Copilot to help with Word, or say with SQL Server or some of the other products out there. You're starting to manage and access different products that Microsoft uses. You may install it because the Copilot may ask you, you're trying to set something up, and it kind of gives you the hint that, hey, if you use this product, you can help find an answer. As a result, now you're going to be potentially non-compliant with licensing because you're installing products. Also with Azure, if the end user's using something like Copilot, they may be accessing different servers that maybe they didn't access before. That's part of your network. That Copilot may be reaching out throughout your network and grabbing things. So think of not only on a Microsoft compliance, but it could be other compliance with other software vendors out there that Copilot reaches, and depending on the licensing terms of a particular publisher, you could now become non-compliant. So some examples that currently what Microsoft's using is Windows, Microsoft 365, and Microsoft Dynamics 365. Windows, currently it's free with Windows. And the way Copilot kind of works with the Windows server or even the Windows desktop is you ask it a question. Think of if you've used Microsoft Bing. I know with me, when I use it, like when you key in a search term, if you happen to move your mouse, you get that drop down with a whole bunch of different type of questions, and sometimes it can be a little annoying or distracting to see it, but that's the kind of the Copilot that would work on your desktop. You need to find a certain file. You need to figure out how to use it for Windows to find, how to change display settings. All these things can now be used by just typing in some commands and some questions to Copilot. Again, remember, currently it's free, but Microsoft may decide down the road to charge for it. That may happen. So 365, Microsoft 365 is where Microsoft adds costs. So you wanted to use 365 with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, any of the hosted solutions of Microsoft 365. Now you'll be paying a fee to use it. It's an add-on to the 365 subscription. And depending on what subscription you get, can really change the idea or the the solution that you want to get. You want to use 365 to use Word and PowerPoint together. You're creating kind of a message. You're creating a presentation, let's say, and you want to use some different feels to the PowerPoint. Again, you can use these tools on there that Microsoft offers. The problem is now you're paying for this feature that is on there. So it's very important, if you're going to use it, to know that, one, is it going to be worth to your organization to use this product? And two, is it going to be the value that you're going to see to one, manage it, and maybe some of the other compliance issues or license management issues that may come through. Microsoft is stating that they will add additional features to Copilot down the road. So right now, it's because it's kind of in its infancy stage or beginning stage. There are some good features to it. There are some good advantages to using it, the way it kind of works together. But if anything else, it's going to grow. With it now, currently, it's about $30 per user per month for some of the subscriptions out there. This is really important to look at, because currently with the pricing that Microsoft's saying, this is at the infancy stage. It's like like a lot of other publishers, they want to get you to start using it. Once you start using it, it gets intertwined to your other products, gets intertwined to your other solutions that you have. Now, Microsoft decides to raise the prices, or what they do is they make other solutions with Copilot. Copilot E1, like think of Office 365, where you have the E1, E2, E3 plans. Now they may come out with Copilot, Copilot 1, Copilot 2, and these things may offer changes. They may offer things that you have now, and then now Microsoft decides, if you want these features that you've been using, now this is part of the VIP package or the extended package, and the pricing goes up considerably based on that. So again, as you're looking at this, remember, this is just, it's kind of in the beginning. Microsoft's really pushing this, so the pricing is going to be a lot better. Once they start getting users and people to use it and they get the feedback and they get their changes, that's when you're going to probably be looking at pricing and changes. And then with that comes the licensing complexity of which one do you get, and if you're non-compliant on some licensing. The copyright commitment. Now, here at Miro, we're not attorneys, we're not lawyers or legal. I like to point out, though, what Microsoft states based on their commitments to customers and AI and Copilot. You can find these details on, I have a link here. If you contact us, I'd be more than happy to say it or send it. Basically, what Microsoft's offering you is, if you create different things, you can have a copyright for things that you use or create. It kind of protects you for those things, and also protect you from some other legal advantages. I don't want to get into detail on it because there are some differences on it. I just wanted to point out that Microsoft does have some commitments to copyrights. It's really important to check that out before you start using Copilot. You don't want to get yourself in any type of issue where you may be challenged, or you want to make, or two, on your end, you want to make sure that your intellectual property is protected, that nobody's going to take it, nobody's going to use it. So these things are really important to view before you would even consider using the product. So some things to consider when we're looking at Copilot. Remember, again, although Copilot is free for like Windows and some other things, it's really, Microsoft may change it down the road. Any changes to your Microsoft 365 subscription, if you get the subscription add-on, can cause increases and potentially open users to more non-compliance. Now when you're letting people access other components of the 365, now you're going to have to buy more licensing potentially, or you may open up that it's heading other parts of the Microsoft family. Again, it's really big to get that. What can happen is they can send up, Microsoft can learn that, and then you can start getting billed from your reseller that now you're using these components, and you want to make sure that there's no restrictions or issues with, if you add some of these products, does that mean you have to add supportive or dependent products to make that thing that you're using now work? These are surprises a lot of customers get. They see one thing and they don't realize that there's a dependency license that they have to buy with it, and that dependency has a dependency to it. So some of these can have multiple licenses to support a single license, and you as a customer want to look at this and say, hey, I just want this product. The problem is Microsoft may not sell it as just that product. Another thing to consider is, if you do look at Copilot, and let's say you test it for a while and you drop it, or you use Copilot and you decide, hey, I don't really need this other 365 subscription, or I don't need this product. I can kind of drop it because I kind of find the solution that I need and I don't really need it. One of the things that I kind of came from a reseller for years. One of the things I learned at the reseller is, anytime a customer drops a product off their enterprise agreement or even open license agreement or MPSA agreement, a lot of times that sends up a red flag to Microsoft to do an audit. Microsoft does not like to lose money. And the problem is, when you drop products, they see their revenue drop and they can view that as an audit. Remember, Microsoft can do an audit anytime they wish on you. They can decide to send one to you, and if they see that, the Microsoft rep may not hit his number and decide, hey, I want to hit this customer because I think they may be using licensing that they're not paying for. Again, this is an area where, if you're considering dropping things or doing any changes to your agreement, here at Miro, we're really good at helping you with that. We can help you understand that, hey, here's some implications you may not consider. And these things can kind of be a surprise to a lot of people. And it's just something, again, I always like to really overemphasize to you, just knowledge is power when you're dealing with any type of contract. And so it's really good to know where you stand and how things may change. Now, subscription licensing is getting more complex, and it's really important now to make sure that you have a licensing management system in place. When Microsoft first sold a lot of these subscriptions, they really spun it as, hey, you buy this subscription and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about licensing anymore. You tell us how many you're using, and that's what you pay for. The problem is a lot of people learned with things like Azure, when they're doing the subscription, you may get an uptick in some of your usage. If that happens, sometimes that uptick stays. So you may pay a high amount one month, but then you continue paying for that increase of usage for the term of your agreement if you don't address it like the month after, or you do some changes. The big thing I always like to point out is if people leave your organization, a lot of people may not always cancel the subscription. You kind of end the user, think of it as like when you get a demo or like a trial version of something. You use it for a little bit. Sometimes you forget to cancel. It comes out each month. It's been coming out for a while. You don't always recognize it or watch it, but you've been paying for this thing you're not using. Now, for an organization, it can become a lot more expensive and a lot easier to miss. You may have hundreds or thousands of employees. Adding some of these costs on, you've been paying it for years. You don't see the change, but why pay for something you're not using? So it's really vital to make sure, one, you have a management process in place. And I think it's really important to get with a partner that's a third party to look at your system with fresh eyes, with unbiased eyes. They look in and say, hey, this is how you're using your software. Here are some solutions for you that you may not have considered, and just better understand why you're spending your money. So we kind of covered Copilot. What I also want to hit on here is just some things to consider over the next several months that are coming up before the end of June. Microsoft's fiscal year is June. Most of you should probably know that if you worked with Microsoft. It's when Microsoft really does a lot of their pushing. It's the best time to kind of work if you have contracts or agreements renewing in the next few months. Really good to know where you're going through. Another big thing to always remember is a lot of times resellers focus their big spend or their income on Microsoft's year end, even though it might not be the reseller's year end. A lot of the resellers know that at the end of the year at Microsoft, they're going to get a lot of their revenue. So they may try to push a lot of agreements on you. They may try to be pushing different solutions or different ideas. The thing is to know that just because it's Microsoft's year end, that doesn't always mean that that's the end of good options or negotiation points with Microsoft. With here at Miro, I've done a lot of these where it went past June, and it was actually better for the customer because the sales rep that they were working with, it seemed they weren't really pushing it. The guy probably already had his sales revenue in for the year. He was comfortable. He was thinking, okay, well, if I don't really get the revenue in, it's no big deal. I already hit my number. I would like the extra cash. So they don't do it. Or you may get a rep that isn't hitting their number and they want that money. So in that scenario, you may get a better deal. But if you kind of go past June, sometimes if they're not working, sometimes you get a better one. The person wants to start off their year right. They want to look good in front of their management. Again, all these things are good to know when you're dealing with this over the next couple of months, or if you have any type of agreement that's coming due. I'd say even next year, even if it's say December, know how to work with it, know how to work with that year end and some other dates with Microsoft to know how to use that to make sure that maybe you renew your agreement earlier. Anything to help you save money and get better negotiating terms. The other thing to remember is over the next couple of months, different Microsoft teams can be used. So just because you're dealing with a sales team at Microsoft, remember in Microsoft, a lot of the groups and teams are compartmentalized. They all have their own number. They all have their own revenue goals and product goals. So you may be working with a sales team, but it may be good if we negotiate with you, help you negotiate, and you help them, you kind of reach out to the Microsoft rep and try to work with the SQL team or the Windows team, because that team under the sales rep didn't hit their number. They want to hit the revenue. So here again, there's a lot of these things that a lot of people don't realize and take into account or when they're thinking of that, hey, this may save money. And then again, as I kind of said earlier, the Microsoft year-end expectations and dates may help your organization. It may be benefit to stretch. And just because it's their fiscal year end, or maybe other year ends. You may be working, if you're a government customer, you may be working with a government that ends at September, because a lot of the schools and things have a September year end. So that Microsoft rep may be looking for September rather than June. These things are all important to work and to know. And again, having a partner understand these dates, how to use the dates, and to have the experience of working with Microsoft and the resellers really comes into play here. You need to understand where both sides are coming from and to know how to use both sides to kind of work for you rather than you're kind of fight. It may seem like you're fighting both of them, or one may seem like the good cop, bad cop type attitude. Understand that at the end, those guys are always talking to the back. They know how they're coming to you, and they are going to explain before either one of them calls you what they're going to talk about, and then you may get the call from Microsoft days later, a surprise call. Again, understand that a lot of these things have been done, and to understand, and the important thing is to know how these things work and how to go forward. Another thing to consider is over the next couple months or so, there's some servers entering extended support. So Microsoft SQL Server 2014 will be entering end of life cycle stage. I do have a lot of customers that are using that, especially if you're somebody like a medical company or like a hospital. Sometimes you have equipment. Microsoft always tells you, oh, it's only this cost to upgrade your server. The problem is if you're a hospital, you may have an MRI machine that uses a SQL database or a Windows server that's older. It doesn't use the new one. And in Microsoft's eyes, you're only spending a couple $1,000s for the server. If you're a hospital or a government agency that has some of these older equipment, you're talking millions if you have to upgrade that thing. So how these things end and how it may affect your security and such is really good to watch. Now, again, upgrading the software is always the easiest solution, but not always the best solution for an organization. And there are some security updates that you can get when it goes into these extended times with Microsoft. There's an extra cost to them and different things you got to sign. The big thing to understand is these things are available for software assurance customers. Years ago, software assurance only gave you new version rights. Now, software assurance, Microsoft knew that they weren't coming out with versions enough and people weren't upgrading enough. Now, software assurance includes things like the security. You have to have it to get these tools. And then there's some other features with software assurance such as like if you're using vMotion on servers. Now there's a better value to buying software assurance. Now Microsoft's making the revenue on that. Some other servers entering support again, Windows Server 2016, Windows Server 2019, and again, SQL Server 2019. It seems kind of funny. Time seems to be really going fast when 2016 seems old now. Remember when that was a kind of a far away number. And again, I just have on here again, the big thing to remember, software assurance customers only. Some key takeaways. Microsoft Copilots, I put Copilots because of the different options on there, are changing. In some cases, they're faster than others. So the Office 365 may be changing in new features quicker than the features for Windows devices. In general, they're free, but on-premise users, so what you want to do is get ready for paying for some and maybe having some for free. And as an organization, that's going to be a challenge. Another big thing to consider is some of these copilots that may be activated, say with Windows. If Microsoft decides to charge down the road, there may be the potential that you had end users that have been using this for years or may activate it at their desktop. Now, because it's activated, it may be an issue where compliance may come into play. Here again is a good push for having that software asset management, understanding why like locking desktops down is a good option, because sometimes things are free, the person activates it, a publisher decides to charge, and that you get audited, and they come in and say, oh, well, these end users activated it, even though you didn't give them permission, it doesn't matter. The publisher is going to look at that and say, you're using it, you have to pay. So, again, here's how Miro, we can really help you understand your environment, help you have that asset management, and understand where your spend is. Another big thing I like to have here is for Copilot. Remember how I said earlier with Microsoft offering like some patents and some like any kind of a legal type things. Anytime you're looking at a new product or a new solution, not only do you want your IT department to look at it, you want your legal team to review it. Sometimes people don't always consider the legal aspect of it. They think of how it's going to affect my environment. If I put it in, is it going to crash my system? Is it going to work right? The other thing to consider is make sure your legal team knows the terms and conditions on that. We'd be more than happy to help your legal team. I've gotten on many a call with the legal teams at an organization, help them understand that bridge between IT and legal. The terms are intermixable, and you'll have legal teams think something completely different than the IT. And the problem there again, you're talking money. And you don't always want to be the one responsible that if there's a miscommunication between the two and now there's a budget issue that suddenly comes up. The better both sides know and both sides kind of work with each other and we help that, is the better that your organization knows where it's spending and why it's spending. Again, fiscal year end coincide with renewals of enterprise agreements, any type of any type of support that you have. Remember that it's because it's the year end doesn't always mean that you're going to get a good deal, but a lot of times it does. And then for security updates is only available, the extended security updates only available for software assurance. Again, Miro can be your partner in this. We want to make sure that when we work with you, you know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and understand a lot of the complexities with these new products as they're coming out and how this may change and affect your organization. And I'll turn this back over to Sean.
Thanks, Vince. Real quick, we had a couple of questions from the audience that were submitted when they filled out registration forms. So give me 1 second. I have those right here. All right. You mentioned software assurance in the invitation. How does that work?
Okay, so software assurance is there's a couple of ways that you can, when you buy software. First, you buy a license of software. Then you buy what software assurance is an add-on to the product. So you'll buy the product with that. Software assurance gives you new version rights for the term of your agreement. It covers, all versions that are out there, all new versions of that particular edition that you have the software assurance on. The other thing to look at is software assurance, besides just new version rights, gives you things like vMotion rights for like SQL Server. If you have a cluster of servers, you have vMotion right, you're using vMotion or some type of license mobility, moving that instance throughout your environment. You need software assurance to do that. Some of the other software assurance benefits are if you're taking advantage of unlimited virtualization rights with, like, say, Windows Server Data Center or SQL Enterprise. You need software assurance to take advantage of those unlimited virtualization terms. And then, as I put on there with the extended support, you need that to buy extended support. There's also, Microsoft keeps adding to it because they want that software assurance to be done, because that now they have guaranteed income from you years and years and years. Some of the software assurance has gone away with like some of the subscription products like Office 365, but the idea is still there. Microsoft wants that ongoing revenue. They didn't want that you buy a license now and then Microsoft gets no purchases or no revenue from you for another 5 or 6 years till you retire the software.
Great, thanks, Vince. We had another just come in live. It is, what did you mean when you said on-prem users should prepare for both Microsoft charging for copilots and auditing usage?
Okay, so when you're looking to prepare for the users for on-premise usage and for the copilots, once you have, remember for Copilot, you kind of have the Windows operating system set up. It's already kind of a built into the Windows OS. And you can use it now, you can use it ongoing. The 365 is that supported version through the cloud now that you're paying a subscription. So you have these end users that are using 2 different types of the Copilot. They're using the Windows that's free. Now they're using the subscription component that they can use. The Copilot is stored with Azure. So Azure has that storage of the Copilot, of the technology and the usage. You have different versions that are installed at different spots. The end user can sometimes use these or download these and start managing it. The problem is that end user doesn't know the licensing. You may be the one, if you're in charge of the contracts or the IT, you're the one that's going to get the phone calls and the letters from Microsoft. You're the one that may have to justify why the expense went up. So with the users that may do it, it's important to know how the users are using the software and how they're going to be affected, and to make sure you have that policy in place to limit a lot of that and to protect you and your position, to know where you are. Know that it's not this as simple as, hey, we're going to use this free product, because as I said, Microsoft can charge later for some of their stuff.
Thanks, Vince. And I'm going to add something in there too. Just some piece of advice we give a lot of our clients is, if you have, Mike, we usually say, if you have questions about your licensing, you're kind of concerned, and maybe am I out of compliance? Do not ask your Microsoft reseller if they think you're out of compliance. Do not ever ask them that, because they will turn right around to Microsoft and say, hey, we're getting questions. Microsoft will turn around and audit you almost immediately. Anything you say to your Microsoft reseller, they are obligated to inform Microsoft. So if they look at your environment and they find that you're out of compliance, they will alert Microsoft. And we're going to add to that going forward. Don't ask Copilot about your licensing situation. At this time, we don't know how much Microsoft is going to monitor what you ask Copilot. They would love to audit you and get a big chunk of extra money from you. So if you start asking your Copilot licensing questions, you may trigger yourself an audit. This is not something obviously that's happened yet, but as a precautionary measure, that's something we want to absolutely just as a precaution. If you do have Microsoft licensing questions, or you're concerned about an audit, you should be talking to a independent, non-Microsoft reseller, because if not Miro, someone like Miro, someone who will sign agreements with you that are non-disclosure agreements, because otherwise your reseller is obligated, and a lot of people don't seem to know that. We had a couple other questions, but we've run over time. We're going to answer them individually and get back to you. If you have further questions we didn't cover, please feel free to contact us. Vince, can you go to the next slide, please? Anyway, we contact us. We're on the web at muroconsulting.com. You can email us at info@muroconsulting.com, and you can give us a call at 732-738-8511, extension 1208. Again, please contact us if you have any further questions about your Microsoft licensing or Copilot or anything like that. We would love to help you out. That concludes the webinar for today. Have a great day. Thank you for coming. And don't forget about our performance guarantees. There's no risk in working with us. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.